Hey there, I just wanted to share my birth story that ended up being such an amazing experience. And I think when I was going into giving birth, I loved watching birth stories, especially positive ones. And so I definitely wanted to give you guys a positive one. That was my personal experience. So let's just jump into it. I gave birth on April 10th, which is actually my birthday as well, which was kind of crazy, but it was also sort of planned. Backstory, we were in Colorado and we needed to get out of Colorado and move back to Idaho by a certain date for my husband to go to school. And the timeline was getting close. It's my first kid and my 40 weeks was on the 10th. That was my due date as well. And so the 40 weeks was coming and I knew that first births normally take a little while. Sometimes they go past the due date, pretty often they do. And I was also planning a unmedicated natural birth. And so the time was coming. I was literally doing everything that I possibly could do. It's curb walking, eating the dates, doing raspberry leaf tea. I was stretching. I felt like I was doing everything possible that I could do to get this baby out. But nothing was working and the timeline was getting tighter and tighter for us to move. So the time came where I decided, okay, I need to schedule an induction. I was a little heartbroken because I wanted to give birth unmedicated. And I, in my head, only thought inductions were Pitocin, and that's all that was involved in an induction. Luckily, I found out that there's other ways to induce, and so I went into it. I gave a call. They gave me options of giving like my top 3 dates of the birth that I wanted. I didn't realize that the day you say, they schedule it for that night for you to come in on that night. And then normally you would have the baby the next day. So I gave my dates. I said April 8th, April 9th, and April 12th. And so just the timeline was we wanted to be in Idaho by the 16th, okay? So it was really close. And they called me back a day later or two. And they said, okay, we got you scheduled for the 9th. Come in at 10 p.m. And I went, oh, that means that the baby will be born on the 10th, which is his due date, my birthday, which I definitely didn't want him to be born on my birthday until later I realized it's okay. Like, that is going to be such a special moment for us to have, a special day for us to share. So I changed my mindset once I found out that he was going to be born on my birthday, his birthday. So pretty exciting. So we got ready and we were really grateful that we had an induction just to kind of get that peace of mind and not have to worry about when he was going to come and the timeline of us moving to Idaho. Sorry, if you hear the baby, he's in the other room trying to get to sleep, so you might kind of be making some noises. But anyways, April 9th came around and we were told to come in at 9:45 to be admitted at 10 p.m. Before the time going in, I had not felt any contractions. I don't even think I haven't had any Braxton Hicks. So I was like so worried. I had no idea what to expect, but I did prepare with birth affirmations. So I was trying to go in it confidently, but since it wasn't going to be unmedicated, I kind of gave up on that mindset and just realized like whatever will happen kind of thing. So we go in there, we get set up. Our nurse, her name was China, and China was super sweet and nice. And we kind of got into our suite, we settled in, and she puts in an IV. I have notes right here as well in my little journal. So I'm just going to be checking that I get all the stuff right because it has been about 2 months since I gave birth. We got in and she asked us a few questions about what we wanted, and I had said that I wanted an unmedicated birth, and so she wanted to make sure that the monitors were set up so that if I wanted, I could move and do all of my different positionings that I wanted to try out with the birth ball and potentially the bath. That's what I was really excited for. So she first, for about an hour, just had me on a monitor on my stomach where I couldn't leave the bed. They just made sure that they checked that everything was good. And they also did a cervical check to see how far along I was dilating. Before I came in, I had an appointment like a week prior, and they said that I was not dilated at all and I was 50% effaced. And so that was exciting about the effacement because I knew that something was starting. Anyways, when I went in, I didn't realize I had been dilating, and she checked and I was about she said 2.5 centimeters dilated, but they just put down 2. So China was putting an IV in me, and this is kind of a crazy thing. I had low platelets, and so my blood was apparently more thin than normal. She had forgotten a part, and when she put it in me, she couldn't stop the blood, and apparently I was looking away, but my husband was telling me that the blood went everywhere, and she had to plug it with her thumb and call another nurse and like, hey, I forgot this part, can you bring it to me? And so I'm looking away, and she's like, hey, we'll just get you all cleaned up, sorry about the mess, I'll give you new sheets after we finish all the other exams and make sure you're doing okay. I'm like, clean the sheets, what are you talking about? I look over, my arm and the sheets and the floor and everything is covered in my blood. So that was first the little kind of like a scary bit where I was like, something's not going to plan, and I want everything to go to plan. So that was a little crazy, but we got the IV. She didn't clean it the best. There was still just like dried blood all over after she was done with everything, and I could get out of the bed. I later on had to kind of like clean myself up a little more, which was one little hiccup out of the whole thing. When I got the monitors, I also was given the cervical ripening medicine, which is the part that was the induction. Normally they give you multiple doses every 4 hours or so. They give you doses to keep the progression, and then the next day, if nothing's progressing, they do potentially Pitocin, or they'd break your water or something like that. So I got one dose. I could choose either have it in my mouth for 20 minutes and not swallow, or they could put it in down there, and they would put it in, and I would just like not have to move for, I think it was an hour. I had them put it up me so that I didn't have to like focus. I could focus on my breath and not focus on having something in my mouth that I couldn't swallow. So that was the thing that started the induction process, and it just was a cervical ripening. The medicine, let me see what it was called. Oh, it's called misoprostol was the medicine that they put in you to get things started. And boy, did that work. I didn't get any other doses. That was the only medicine I got. Everything else was all natural and unmedicated, and it was the best because I definitely did not want all my prep to go for nothing. Okay, when she checked me and I was at 2.5 centimeters dilated, that was at 11:15. I had my husband write down the specific timeline, and let me tell you, my birth went by pretty quick. So after all the things got checked, we shut off all the lights, we got ready for bed, and I laid in the bed, and Dylan, my husband, he set up the bed on his couch, and we got ready to go to sleep. In the middle of the night, I start feeling contractions, and I had never felt these before, but I'd always heard it's just intensity, just an intense tightening, and it's rhythmic tightening. And so I was like, okay, consistently I have been feeling this tightening, it's contractions. It was just like, I had never had period cramps before as well, so I can even reference that as what I was feeling. So I instantly go into my prep mode, where this was the coolest moment out of all of this birth story, is that the breathing prep that I had done actually worked. It was so cool. So I was breathing in 4 through my nose and out 6 through my mouth. And I was doing that, and I was putting my finger on my knee and tapping In through 4, out through 6 was 1. In through 4, out through 6 was 2. And I would do that until the contraction was over. And I found that I did that 4 times. So it was so cool, consistently through the rhythms, in through 4, out through 6. And I did that 4 times. And I knew that the peak, the most intense part, was in between 2 and 3. And after I gotten done with 2, I knew that that was the peak and that I was about to be done with that contraction. And then I would have rest. And there was a few times where the contractions would be pretty close and I was like, dang, I didn't get the rest. But oh my goodness, if you get anything from this video, prep your breath. It worked so well. I was able to go hours, a few hours. Like, my birth went by really quick, you'll find out. But the breathing made things go by so smoother, and I felt in control of my breath. And anytime I would like talk to someone or do something else and stop my breathing, it became kind of not very manageable. And so I would definitely recommend the in through your nose, out through your mouth. And I would just go, it was just the best. Okay, moving on. So around 2:30 in the morning, China comes in. So it's been a few hours since I was last checked. China comes in and asks if she could do a cervical check on me. And I said, yeah, of course. Like, I originally didn't know if I'd be okay with that, but I wanted to know how far I'd been progressing because I was feeling these very consistently going on, okay? And so she checked and I was at 6 centimeters dilated. Both of us were shocked. I was like, you're kidding me. I'm in active labor, like starting now? What? Like, I had no idea that amount of time I had been progressing that much. But I mean, I was feeling consistent contractions and a lot of extra pressure. So around that time, when she checked that I was at 6 centimeters, that's when I switched to active labor breathing, which is also a part of the prep that I was really proud of. So I switched to active labor, and this is where I had prepped kind of the low moan, the very guttural noises. And I would breathe in through 4. Sometimes I would breathe in less or more, depending on how much effort I needed. And I would breathe in and then do this guttural moan. And it just kind of came naturally to switch to doing the moan because the breathing out through 6 was no longer enough to handle the intensity of the contractions. Something I had not prepared for that I didn't think I would use was using a birth comb. And I broke in half a claw clip, like something that I'm wearing right now. I broke it in half to use as my comb, and I would just press it into my hand. That was such a lifesaver, honestly, to have something to put your pressure towards, put your intensity towards, besides breathing. It was very, very, very helpful. I didn't actually think I would use one, but I had one in the bag just in case. I'm so glad I grabbed one and had my husband give it to me because it was so nice to just have something to put all my pressure towards. So during this time, I'm breathing in and breathing out with this low moan and holding on to this claw clip as tight as possible. My husband's coming in occasionally asking for if I need water, or he's just giving me water, and also sometimes he would give me some chapstick to put on. And so that was very nice, just having him there. He's like, you got this, you can do this, kind of just like, I don't really remember if he didn't ever do counter pressure or anything. He was just there for any moral support that I needed. I did try to get up and do different positions that I had prepared beforehand. I got on the birth ball, I got on my hands and knees, but all of those positions that I had thought, I had prepped like exactly what I would do, what positions I would be in during labor. I could not do any, like moving to a position was really painful. I needed to just stay where I was and fully go into my brain, like they call it labor land. I needed to be fully focused. So when I was switching positions, it was very painful because my brain had stopped focusing on breathing. So I ended up getting back into the bed so that I could just fully have all my focus on my brain. And I actually really liked just being able to be in the bed doing all of that. So that was something that shocked me, actually, that I wasn't gonna be on my hands and knees and I wasn't using the birth ball. So it was getting very, very intense and very consistent, and my moaning started to sound like pushing, like I needed to get something out of me. It just became very, very primal, very guttural, and my nurse was like, "Do you feel the need to push?" And I was like, "I think so." It just felt good to put my pressure down. And so she's like, "Okay, would you like to do a cervical check?" And I said, "Yes, please. I want to know how far along I am, because I don't know if I can do this any longer." And I was kind of sad because I didn't want to have an epidural. I just had this mindset that if I do that, I just had told everybody I wasn't gonna do it and I was strong enough, kind of thing. So it was kind of like a prideful thing that I did not want to get an epidural. But during that time, I was like, okay, I cannot do this any longer. Get me an epidural. So they called the anesthesiologist to come. And while he was coming, China does a cervical check on me. And we find out that I am 10 centimeters. I had done the active labor and I was at 10 centimeters, and that was at 340. 340. Okay, let me look back. 230, I was at 6 centimeters. So an hour later, I was at 10 centimeters. We both were shocked. China goes into full active mode, like get everybody like aware that this is going to happen. The anesthesiologist guy comes in. There's 2 nurses, China, another nurse, the anesthesiologist, my husband right here, me. And they're like, "Well, we got to get it in." They start explaining that if I don't get the epidural, or if I get the epidural, it will take about 20 minutes, I guess, to have it kick in. By then, you're going to be feeling all these feelings, and then you'll just be numb afterwards. And I was like, I don't know, like my brain, I could not process things, because I was every few seconds, minutes, I was going through a really intense contraction. And so they were just like, wait for me until I could be done, and then I'd like not be able to process what they were asking me. And so I'm like looking, and Dylan, he's trying to give me the support. He's like, "You can get it if you need it, like don't feel bad." And I remember beforehand telling him, "You can never give me the out. You need to say, no, you can do this." But I am grateful he was just like, "Whatever you want, it's okay," kind of thing. So there was one nurse, not China, just a random nurse I hadn't really talked to before, but she's like, "You've gone this far and you've done it. I know you could do this." And I was like, "You're right." So I kicked the anesthesiologist out and I said, "I can finish this off." It was kind of cool. I was like, I've already done it so far. I might as well just push the baby out naturally, which is what I wanted. And so I was like, okay, if I was not 10 centimeters, I would have definitely gone the epidural, because I was like, there's no way I can be going through all of these active labor contractions and not be at a 10 yet. You know what I mean? So like, let's say I was at only a 7. Yeah, definitely would not want to continue that contraction pain intensity. I don't like saying pain because it was for a purpose. So I just don't want anyone to be afraid of the word pain. It's intense. It's just intense. We'll just say that. So the delivery doctor, her name is Dr. Seeker. I had never met her before. She's very nice. But she came in and she started getting all the gear ready. I will let you know my water still has not broken. So I am starting to push, and I'm starting to push out this ball. It just literally feels like a water balloon is just trying to escape me. And yeah, I don't know what it's gonna feel like when I have another baby if my water breaks, because I feel like I liked having it being a water balloon, because it's just a full mass. It's not all these limbs. So I don't know what what it'll feel like in the future, but that was really nice. I have also heard that makes it harder because it's more stuff to push out, I guess. But anyways, my water hadn't broke. The doctor decided not to break it, to let me push with the water still intact. And so my brain is in labor land. I'm so focused on just breathing, moaning, pushing this clamp thing into my hand. And they start telling me to get in a position with my legs up in the stirrups on my back and do purple pushing, which I had learned I did not want to do it. I had heard that you're more likely to tear if you labor on your back. So I had prepped to either do a side lying labor, like push, or be on my hands and knees. Hands and knees was out. I did not want to get up. They start coaching me and telling me how to do this. I genuinely cannot think of anything besides just listening to them. This is where I think a doula would come in handy, because they would coach you in a different way. And I needed someone to tell me what to do because I could not process what was happening. So the nurses were telling me to get up in the to put my legs up in stirrups, and I just did it. I was like, okay, yeah, you got to tell me what to do, because I can't also think of other ways. I can't imagine myself moving in a sideways position. I only could focus on my breaths. I prepped for birth in a different position, but in the moment, you just go with the flow. You go with what people tell you what to do and how they coach you. And they were coaching me to do this, so I just said, okay. And so then they're telling me to grab them under my legs and to hold my breath and push for 10 seconds. 10 seconds is a super long time. So China, holding my head, she's counting to 10 in a very slow way. And Dylan is on my other side, and he's saying, you can do this. You got this. You're so close. You're so close. So I'm pushing, and then I have a break. It was like the best relief. My eyes, I don't think opened since I had been 10 centimeters. Even in active labor, I feel like my eyes were closed the whole time, just solely focusing on what I was doing and how I was breathing. So during this time, I'm just out. And there was a few times where I would be dead afterwards, and I'd just be laying there. I'd be like, you guys are doing great. And they're like, you are the one pushing. I'm like, it was just so funny, because after I would just give it my all, then I just be out. It was just, I was so tired. And then I'd start pushing again, and everybody would be counting, and Dylan would be cheering me on, and it was nice. It was a very dim environment and not too much noise. I was worried there was going to be a million things going on, but it was all I remembered was it was just those two. It was just China counting to 10, him encouraging me, which was super nice. So I'm pushing, and then I finally, in my head, I think, okay, this is going to be really painful. And there's this point where I'm just like, I know if I give it my all, he's coming out. But I was scared, because it's like you have to mentally just like get over that fear, and you have to just give it your final all. And so I had just been, I think it was just crowning, but I wasn't fully crowned because it was a full water sack. So it wasn't like his head was out or anything. It was, the water was coming out. Anyways, so I finally had to just change my perspective and just say, okay, it's gonna hurt, but I can do this, and then he will be in my arms. And it was the coolest switch, and I finally just pushed. And then normally I would rest, but I just, even after the 10 seconds, just kept going, and they're all just saying, you can do it, you can do it. Dylan saying, I can see him, he's right there. And then finally at 4:30 exactly, my son pops out, the water goes everywhere, and then he's on my arms. And I remember just freaking out, and not freaking out, but just saying like, oh my goodness, he's beautiful, I love him. I was just saying so many things. It was just, I was splurting out millions of phrases just to my new son. His name is Palmer Ray Prater, and he is just the sweetest little boy ever. But I do remember the one thing I didn't like is that I had told the nurses that I wanted a delayed cord clamping, and I remember they like, right as he was out, just clamp, all right, cut. we were kind of weirded out, but it was just like, so in the moment, we just kind of moved on from that, which is, it's whatever. Our baby is very healthy and got the nutrients from my breast milk and everything. So we were in pure shock that we came in at 10 p.m. and had the baby at 4:30. Didn't need much medication besides that one dose of the midaprostol. I'm not saying that right, but it went by so fast, and I think it was the most perfect birth that I could ever imagine. I probably would have gotten an epidural if it was a long labor, which I assumed was going to happen. So having it be a quick, short, fast labor, I was able to push through. It was just absolutely incredible, perfect natural birth. And I know that it's scary, and if you are a first-time mom or you're going into another birth, you can do it, and the prep really works. Breathing prep was my all-time favorite thing that actually worked and helped me be able to overcome some of the most painful contractions that I personally don't think I would have been able to work through if I didn't have that breathing prep. So, thank you guys for listening to my birth story. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you found it interesting or helpful. I'd love to hear how your births went. I love birth stories, so feel free to do full long paragraphs or whatever you want. Also, if you are prepping for it and you have any questions or anything, I'd love to be able to help you out in the comment section. But thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and a good birth experience.